Recording.
Good evening, everyone. This is the public hearing for the Prairiewood Leisure Centre Draft Plan of Management. My name's Adam Hunter. I'm a landscape architect who's assisted council with the preparation of this plan of management. Before we get underway, I'd like to acknowledge the Cabral of the Darug Nation, who are the traditional custodians of the land we're meeting on today. We pay our respects to the elders, both past and present and future of the Darug Nation. We acknowledge the rich culture and your unique role here in the Fairfield region. Your heritage and traditions are important to us all and part and parcel of the great history of Australia. So what we'd like to do today is just give you a bit of an outline of the plan of management, and then we're available to take any questions on the plan of management and its contents. So the aim of today is to provide members of the community the opportunity to discuss draft plan of management, which is on public exhibition now, prior to the reporting of that draft plan of management to council and its finalisation and endorsement by council. So the plan of management is on public exhibition now. That commenced on the 30th of September and will extend until the 28th of October. Submissions will then be received for a further 2 weeks up until the 11th of November. And today is 21st of October, so we're roughly in the middle of that exhibition period. Council invites all community comments to be provided during this period. The draft plan is available for viewing on Council's website, and it's also available in hard copy at the Prairiewood Leisure Centre in the foyer. Oops, sorry. So as I said, submissions should be made by the close of business on the 11th of November, and they can be addressed to the email address mail@Fairfield City or addressed by normal post to the City Manager of Council. So the study area is the Prairiewood Leisure Centre, and this just gives you a contextual idea of where the centre sits. So it's somewhat in the centre of the LGA, located quite close to the Fairfield Showgrounds, located directly adjacent the bus transit way that runs to Parramatta. We'll talk a little bit more about the history of the site in a minute, but it is a complex piece of open space. Divides up into a series of parcels, and that's what this diagram here describes. So those, the darker colour is the leisure centre building itself, and then the three cooler blue and purple colours are the different zones of the facility. So there's the Aquatopia Water Park, the 50-metre pool here, and then the racing shoots precinct out here. And obviously there's a couple of stages of work still ongoing in the development of the Aquatopia facilities, but the next couple of years we'll see the full scope of those master plan proposals finished. Directly to the north of the leisure centre is a tributary of the Orphan School Creek corridor. So that's what's called a repairing corridor, which basically means it's a creek line. And we also have adjoining that an area of bushland, and there's also an area of bushland over here adjoining Prairievale Road. There's an area here which is adjoining each of those areas, which is an open space, and that is within the flood zone of the tributary, sort of through there. And then we've got a couple of parking areas here which service the leisure centre. So that top image is the Orphan School Creek corridor, which I mentioned before. So the area proper of the creek corridor is basically a mixture of natural vegetation with some weed encroachment. The areas of the flood zone are managed grasslands at the moment. and then we're looking over there to the leisure centre and one of the stands of trees. That's the stand of trees that adjoins Prairievale Road. And then most of you will know the Aquatopia facilities itself, which provide a range of aquatic and fun facilities that are used very extensively over the summer months. So the reason that we're here is that the Prairiewood Leisure Centre is covered by a plan of management which is now quite old, and that plan of management actually covered the Prairiewood Leisure Centre as well as the Cabrevale Leisure Centre. So this plan of management is being done specifically to update the old plan of management, also to provide appropriately to provide a specific plan of management for the leisure centre facility, which is now a major and significant facility in the LGA. Under the Local Government Act, which is the act that plans of management are dealt with, council is required for all community land, which is basically council-owned open space, to be covered by a plan of management. So that plan of management needs to identify the category of the land. We'll talk about that a bit more in a minute. Objectives and planning outcomes for the land, and the means by which council propose to achieve those objectives and outcomes. So basically what it's asking council to do is to detail how it proposes to manage a piece of open space or facility, and how it's going to measure its realisation of those defined outcomes. Importantly, the nature and use of community land cannot change without an adopted plan of management, and to change those things once a plan of management is adopted would require a new plan of management to be prepared. There's three categorisations that apply to the Prairiewood Prairievale. Why have I got the Prairiewood Leisure Centre? Apologies. The first is general community use, and that applies to the leisure centre itself. Second is natural area bushland, and that applies to the two areas of bushland flanking the centre, and then natural area watercourse, which is the area of the unnamed creek line. So each of those categorisations then require council to manage that land in a specific way. So general community use is recreational focus, a recreational and community use focus. So as opposed to, say, sports ground, general community use might factor in other types of community objectives related to community services. But it is one that enables council to manage complex leases and licences, such as is the case on the Prairiewood Leisure Centre. Natural area bushland and natural area watercourse are two which basically are quite defined in what they allow in terms of uses, and have very much a focus on natural area management. So natural area bushland are terrestrial areas of natural bushland. The criteria for categorising under this under natural area bushland are quite open, so it can be areas that have potential to be high quality natural bushland. It recognises that there may be some areas that are still quite impacted and so on, that have potential to contribute to biodiversity and habitat in the area. And then natural area watercourse encompasses a lot of the bushland and vegetation and habitat type factors of natural area bushland, but also has the water conveyance factor, which is obviously critically important in terms of these water courses. So there's been three there has been consultation undertaken in development of the plan of management. So the first was an internal council stakeholder forum. So that involved people who are involved in different ways in the management of the leisure centre. The second was an online survey, which had regard for previous surveys, user surveys related to the centre, and looked to update those and to try and ascertain new community perspectives on how the facility was working. And then there was also a community have a say pop-up, which happened at the start of that online survey period, which people visiting the centre on that Saturday morning were able to attend. Basically, anyone who attended on that have a say pop-up day filled out the effectively the online survey. So in the plan of management, it details a bit of a rundown on the people that responded to that that survey, and that gives a bit of a sense, I guess, in terms of a typical Saturday of usage in terms of the people that responded on the day, but also, I guess, cast the net a bit broader in terms of the people that responded to the broader survey period. Importantly, then, the types of things that were raised in the outcomes of that survey were that in terms of how people, their level of satisfaction with the facilities, there's a high level of satisfaction with the range of water-based activities. People felt safe inside the centre, and people felt that there was a number of different options for seating and relaxing while you're at the centre. Some of the things that people felt were challenges and were things that they hoped the council might be able to address were the availability of toilets and capacity of toilets across the facility. The same for the availability of change rooms and more specifically, the availability of change rooms that enabled different age groups to be using the facility at different times of day, and then the ability to keep toilets and change rooms in the optimum condition across those heavy use periods as well. So those things are very helpful in terms of framing the plan of management recommendations, and all three of those things, as well as a bunch of other issues and pressures, were identified as things that need to be addressed in ongoing management. And that list on the right-hand side there in the green boxes gives you a bit of a sense of those. So cleaner, upgraded and more accessible parents' rooms, change rooms and toilets. Investigating potential to increase parking on the perimeter of the facility, as well as accessing immediate pedestrian access that would bring parking adjoining the centre into play, as well as tapping onto ways that people could actually get access to the centre by more sustainable transport, such as cycles, as well as better connections to the bus transitway. Upgrades to the maintenance and cleaning regime were identified as key actions, as well as potential to have split access to the centre on busy summer days, which would mean that all of the centre access wasn't happening through the existing foyer area, because there was identified to be a conflict between access for Aquatopia against access for just general leisure centre and gym usage. So they're all things amongst, they're some of the highest priority things amongst a range of other things as well that the plan of management recommended to be addressed. There's a detailed action plan which outlines all of those, which looks something like this. What that action plan identifies is basically how a particular issue has been derived and to what aspect of management of the facility it lies, and then each of the management actions are numbered so that council can actually monitor its realisation of those and prioritise different streams of funding to seek to address those progressively over the course of the lifespan of the plan of management. So where to from here? So basically the plan of management will be on exhibition, as we mentioned, till the end of October, with the ability to respond for the community up until the 11th of November. What we'll be doing is reviewing all of the feedback that's been provided and to discuss with council where, if any, changes are required to the plan of management, and then that will be put to council for final approval. And once that's done, that plan of management then becomes the planning direction for the Prairiewood Leisure Centre. Just to recap then of the public exhibition situation. So as I mentioned, it's out on exhibition till the end of September. And then, sorry, I got those dates wrong when I mentioned them just then. And comments will be received up until the 11th of November. And there's a number of ways that you can submit those comments, either by mail or directly to council, either by email or directly to council. So I hope that's been helpful if you're viewing this online, and obviously if there are any queries, those contact addresses for email and also postal address can be used. Thanks very much.